Welcome to Case File Number 1, the series where we go back through one of the most painful relationships of my life, and together we uncover every clue I missed. Your job is simple. See if you can spot the red flags before I finally did, because if you can learn to see them in my story, you'll start recognizing them in your own. In the last episode, I talked about a phone call that I received while I was out on my second cruise contract. And it was a call from him asking me to help pay his rent. Now, this was a loaded question because I had never received any information from him prior to that call that suggested not being able to work or not get hours at his restaurant gig. And so I felt conflicted and more so manipulated because I had my personal belongings in his place, which meant that if for whatever reason he wasn't able to come up with the money, my things are now at risk. And also keep in mind, from the second episode, he's a felon. And mind you, I also don't know how many months in arrear he is on his rent. There's that. If he gets evicted, it's not like he can just go and easily find another place. He already doesn't have the money, allegedly. He already has a record that prevents him from just going to get another job on top of another place. So what am I gonna do? I can't even remember if I ended up giving him the money, if it was the full amount of rent, if it was partial amount of rent, or what. But just the fact that he had now sprung something up on me financially that I wasn't prepared for. It was also probably during this time frame when he discussed his dislike of me working on the ships. At first, he painted it as he didn't like the distance and me being gone and him missing me. And then it became more of like an ultimatum, like I had to choose my career or choose him. Now that I think back about it, he sounded somewhat jealous. Like he was mad that I was out sailing and touring and traveling and seeing the world and he wasn't. And as they say, misery loves company. He didn't like my job and I needed to do something about it. And so what did I do? I booked him a cruise to come and visit. Since he seemed to feel so alone and so distant, I had a friends and family discount situation where I could bring people on board for a great and fabulous price. And so that's what I did, being the good supportive girlfriend that I was. And I remember some of my musician friends on board, once they saw and met him, one of the guys was like, he just looks so angry, like he's so mean, like he's angry about something. He looks really mean and angry. So I'm trying to speak up for him and cover the situation. Like, oh no, it's nothing. He's just tired, or he's had a long flight, or that's just his face. He doesn't mean any harm. Now I'm giving excuses for why he's showing up in this negative energy and attitude. I'm probably in denial about his anger issues at this point. And also during his cruise visit, my hours were super late. So I worked as a guitarist and a singer. My hours were 8 p.m. to midnight. I would do different musical sets, 45 minutes each. He ended up getting mad. I remember coming back to my cabin room to meet him there, and he just gave me this like stank side eye, like very suspicious, like I had been out doing something wrong or that I was with someone else, was essentially what he was alluding to or even accusing me of. And I'm like, why would you think I'm out with someone else? I'm working. This is my job. These are my hours. You can come and sit with me and see me perform. And I don't know if he did every night, but the nights that he didn't and the times that he left, he assumed that I was off with someone doing something crazy. At this point, I don't think that we had become physically intimate. And there's a reason for that. So let me back up. During the earlier conversations, when we were talking about relationship history, family dynamics and all of that, what I forgot to mention in the previous episode was we talked about sexual history. For me, I was an extremely late bloomer. I didn't have my first unfortunate experience until I was 25. And I don't know why some people have found that hard to believe in my life, but it's true. I took the vow of purity when I was a teenager, and I stood by that because of my good Christian upbringing. And that pretty much stayed with me all throughout my adult life, even after that first time. So I shared that with him. So it came his turn to talk about his body count. And he proceeds to tell me that it's over 100. Yeah, that he slept with over 100 people. And I immediately felt this fear within me that was like, danger. That's when I can say I felt something intuitively in my gut say, we don't feel safe about that. I don't remember if I asked, how did that happen? Why did that happen? What was he thinking to make that happen? I didn't want to come from a place of shame or judgment or criticism. So I don't know if I actually followed up and asked questions about what he was into for that to be the case. And if he did give me an answer, it wasn't anything substantial. So I still really didn't know. And so because of that, I was dead set on, we need to get tested. We need to get tested. Let's go get testing together so that we both know where each other stands. I didn't want to put myself in a position that I would regret. Oh, but did I end up regretting this one? Because while I am pushing the issue of getting tested, he is actively dragging his feet. He's not following up with setting the appointment. He's unavailable to go on certain days. He switches the conversation. He doesn't bring it back up after he's told me to wait to find out when he's free. It was always just kind of like, okay. But he would never follow up about it or follow through with it. All the while, him delaying testing with me, he's actively making moves sexually. And I wish that I could say at some point that I didn't give in, but I did. I allowed it to happen. And I wasn't fully protected either. Because I wasn't planning on it happening. I didn't want it to happen. I didn't want to go and buy contraception at the time to justify it happening because I was trying to hang on to my good Christian morals. But what happens when no is not enough anymore, or not yet is not enough anymore? And it was that unfortunate decision to move forward anyway, physically, that cost me not one, not two, but 3 resulting visits to the doctor. Now, those were the clues. Did you catch them before I did? It sounds so ridiculous to say this stuff now because it just seems so blaringly obvious. Having not dealt with any of it before, I rationalized a lot. So let's go back and look at clue number 1. He asked me to pay his rent, and the question I kept sitting with was, why does it feel so hard or wrong if I wanted to say no? And equally, why does it feel hard and or wrong if I say yes? For one, my boxes were in his apartment. I stayed there in between contracts, but on the other hand, I wasn't on the lease and I wasn't there 90% of the time, but my things were there. My car was parked there. So now this wasn't just about helping my boyfriend. This was about protecting my own belongings. And looking back, I realized something. Sometimes manipulation isn't necessarily forcing your hand. Sometimes it feels like your options have become smaller until the choice you don't want to make becomes the only reasonable choice you feel you can make. Question I have for you is, do you feel it was intentional? Like, was I possibly from the beginning an insurance policy when he conveniently welcomed me to house my boxes at his place? Did he intentionally engineer that? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. Let me know in the comments. All I know is that I no longer felt free to make the decision that I wanted. And this is a huge takeaway. Pay attention anytime a relationship starts creating obligation before it develops and earns trust. I also learned that accusations are often projections. Not all the time, but sometimes. And looking back when he was on board my ship, I found it interesting that the person questioning my integrity was actually the one who was becoming increasingly more questionable. He was the person whose behavior started giving me more reasons to question his, because I hadn't given him any reason to doubt mine. He never had anybody that came to him and told him anything about me because there was nothing to say. I also confused empathy with self-abandonment. I empathized with his money problems. I empathized with his lack of work hours. I empathized with his past and his record, and I overlooked it and, chalked it up to everybody deserves the benefit of the doubt or a second chance. I did all of that until I stopped empathizing with myself. I wasn't taking into account how I felt, what I was going through, what was at stake for me to lose, what I had already begun to lose, starting with peace of mind and bodily health. I also instinctively knew that everything that I was experiencing physically was a direct result of dealing with him. And I heard myself say, if you just nip this in the bud and stop fooling around, you probably won't have these issues anymore, because I hadn't had them ever before. Never had them since. Something in me was like, yeah, he might be the culprit, but I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to assume that. I didn't want to create a damper on the relationship. Again, empathizing with something and someone else more than myself. And my intuition knew all along that something wasn't right. And at the time, I was feeling scared about the ways that I was feeling, but I realized my intuition wasn't trying to scare me. It was trying to protect me. By this point, I knew something wasn't right. I just didn't have full confirmation on everything. I just couldn't shake this feeling that there was another life happening when I wasn't there. I remember him not answering my calls at our scheduled time, and his excuse was he overslept or his phone was dead at 10 and 11 o'clock in the morning after multiple calls. Remember, he's not working like that. So what exactly is he doing? Or whom exactly is he doing it with? And again, my intuition already knew what my mind wasn't willing to accept and what my body had already been showing signs of. I just didn't know how devastating the truth was about to be.